Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Aligned as Fuck podcast. I am your host, Candy Barone, and I am super excited because we are about to embark on another really juicy and delicious conversation. And I absolutely adore my guest. I've gotten to know her over the last year or so, probably last 2 years, and I just adore her, and I cannot wait to introduce her to you. But just to remind you all, if this is your first time tuning in, this is our space to get raw, real, and gritty. It is having conversations that matter in all the areas of leadership, alignment, human design, and whatever else we might need to discuss and rabbit holes we need to go down. So, with that, let me just first say hello to Justine Beauregard and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. And I know we're going to have a really powerful conversation. But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about Justine. As an entrepreneur her whole life, she's got quite the entrepreneurial spirit. Justine got started hosting puppet shows. I can't wait to talk about that in her backyard for $5 a ticket. As the host of a top 5% entrepreneurial podcast, People Over Profit. And by the way, if you have not subscribed to that, please go out and check it. It is a fantastic podcast. Writer for entrepreneur.com and award-winning sales strategist since 2007, Justine loves teaching others how to sell more naturally. Yes, we're going to talk about that word that makes all y'all cringe. We're going to talk about selling today, but we're going to talk about it in a way that might wake you up because Justine is all about talking about sales without feeling salesy or pushy. And so she is known for helping entrepreneurs generate more consistent, predictable income in a repeatable way, moving from feast and famine to freedom. Who doesn't want a more freedom, right? And she was also voted as Boston's Businesswoman's Best Business Coach for 2024. So she is no joke, y'all. Not that she needed that for me to tell you she's no joke. She's no joke. And I am super excited to have you here. So let's talk about, first of all, this puppet show. Like, how did you know? Because we're going all the way back to like the moment like the magic started. How did you know that you were meant to be an entrepreneur and sales was your jam?
You know what? I think those two things are not mutually exclusive. I started off really knowing I wanted to be a business owner because I was surrounded by female business owners, which was very rare back then. Like my aunt was from Japan. She came over to the US and started a company that was in the computer chip space, which was like really weird and random. My mom worked for her. So my mom, being a single mom, would invite me into the office after school because she had to work and there was nowhere for me to go. So I would go there and I would just like spend time in the office and watch people coming in and out and seeing like the vibe of the office. And I was just like, oh, I love this. And then I remember having these little notebooks and writing down all my business ideas. And I hand wrote business cards for myself. And I had this little laminator that I got from Office Max, which I don't even think is still a company. And I was laminating my own business cards on the playground when other kids were like playing tag. And so I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be a business owner. My grandmother was also a business owner, and my grandfather was retired and he stayed home and he had some health issues, but they had 5 kids. She ran a business. She had a bunch of real estate ventures. Like I was surrounded by strong female energy from a real young age. And I think seeing my parents get divorced when I was 9, that really sparked this desire to make it a serious thing instead of just a play, sell lemonade, sell the puppet show tickets, things like that with little bits of money. It became like a a requirement almost. Like I have to be in control of my own financial future because I'm not going to rely on a partner. I'm not going to rely on my family. I'm going to be my own person and I'm going to be able to provide for myself. And that's been my journey my whole life. And then later in life, I got a sales job and learned to love sales in the way that I do it now. But even that started, sucky and uncomfortable and getting a million no's and getting hung up on. And people degrading you and all the things until I finally was like, screw this. I'm not going to stay in this job. I need the money, but not that bad. And then finally doing it my own way and being like, oh, you know what? Sales is actually really fun and awesome when you can connect to people authentically and be yourself and not follow some like weird script that someone put in front of you on a table and plugged you in, you know?
Well, and there's so much I like about that. Before I get into the really juicy questions, I got two basic ones. Do you still have the original business card and those notebooks?
You know what? Probably I went through this huge purge. My mom, I used to be, they would call me bag lady as a kid. I was such a pack rat. I would keep every little thing. And probably 5 years ago, not a few years ago, but 5 years ago, my mom was cleaning out our house and she was like, invited me and my sister, hey, girls, come over, grab your shit. Like, I'm not going to keep it in my basement anymore. We got to clear this stuff out. And I went through a bunch of stuff and threw a lot of things away. So I might have like pictures somewhere, or, there might be like the original business card in my basement somewhere, but like I have one bin of keepsakes for my whole life. And every time I want to add something to it, I have to throw something away because I'm now like the opposite of a pack rat where I have people, and this is a really funny aside, but I had an interior designer come in and do parts of my house. And in the questionnaire, she asked me, she said, is there anything I should know before I visit for my on-site consultation? And my response to that question was, don't be alarmed when you come into our home. It looks as though we've been robbed because we don't like crap in the house. And she was like, I've never in my whole life had someone say, it looks like I've been robbed about their house before. And then she came in and she goes, wow, you really do have like nothing on the walls or anything. And I'm like, listen, I'm not a decorator. Like, this is why I'm hiring you. I do not like stuff. I do not like clutter. I need to be like
Yeah.
in an open space.
Well, and I think, and I have a feeling we're going to connect some dots around that, that there's an
Yeah.
intentionality, right? And there's an intentionality to how we sell. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. The other little question I want to ask in that is, do you remember the title you gave yourself on your first business card?
Oh my gosh. So I didn't actually give myself a title. Owner, I guess, but it was owner of JJ's Jewelry Co. because my middle name is Jane. So as a kid, everybody called me JJ growing up, which is funny because I have one cousin who's 35 and still calls me JJ. She's one of the only people who does. I tell my kids heard her say it one time, and I was like, "Do not copy her. I will not be
Don't.
that." But yeah, JJ's Jewelry Co. was my first business card because while I was doing the puppet shows simultaneously, I was selling friendship bracelets and keychains that I would make out of GIMP, which is, again, not a thing anymore, but it was all the rage back in the 80s and
I love
90s.
that. I just love that you remember that. And there we have some similarities and things for sure. What I want to dive into, because the thing that really sparked for me, and this is why I really wanted to have you on the show, because we do talk about, I do a lot of work in human design, which is helping, and you know this, and it's helping people really connect into their energetic blueprint. And what I
Yeah.
love about your story, and this is what I really want us to kind of open up some space on, because I think this is part of why people get so stuck in the energy and the language of sales, is because they've been given a stupid ass script that somebody else, some bro, gave them that said, this is the way you sell. And it was the kind of the puffed up, and it was this whole, I can remember being in sales roles where I literally had notebooks that were like this thick that you were supposed to memorize and go through. And I'm like, the hell I'm doing that. There is no way this is organic or feels natural. And so what I love about that is you were like, I'm not selling this way. I'm going to sell my way. And so I'd really like to talk about how that decision sort of evolved for you, or if it didn't even evolve, it just was like, it is happening. And how did you navigate that? Because again, you're talking about, you're playing in spaces that, I'm guessing when you first started sales, there wasn't a lot of women around doing what the thing, right? Because it tended to be a role, at least when I was growing up. I grew up in a lot of the tech industry. I'm an engineer by background. I remember when I was in sales, it was me and 25 guys in my sales training class, because
Yeah.
there was no women that were going to do sales, because first of all, they weren't told they could, or because you had to play this bro game that was just whatever it was. So I'm curious for you, when you decided that, like, what was the dynamic going on, and how did you navigate and create the confidence or tap into the
Yeah.
confidence that said, I'm going to do this.
It's funny because hindsight's 2020. And at the time, it wasn't really a power move or like something that was born out of my own, just like sheer will and confidence and trust in my own abilities. What really happened, I got into sales. My very first sales job was a fundraising job. And
Mm.
it was for the university that I was going to at the time. And I had asked around campus and said, what's the highest paying job? Because I've got 120K in student loan debt and I don't want to be poor for my whole life. So, what are we going to do here? So, I got 5 jobs at the same time.
Nice.
I got a job working for, ironically, a tech company as a marketer part time. That was my degree. I got a job as a math tutor for the nurse on campus because I actually have multiple autoimmune conditions and I was at the nurse a lot. I had chronic migraines at the time. And she was like, oh God, I keep getting calls, like while I was in there. I keep getting calls from my kid's math tutor that she can't come and she's so unreliable and I really need help. And I was like, I'm good at math. I can tutor your kids. So I got that job. I worked at the mall. I was a fashion expert for Express. That was the title, very fancy. And actually, that was kind of a sales job because I had so many sales, I say that in quotes, of credit cards to people because I was like, it's a no-brainer. Get this credit card, save 25% on your purchase. If you don't want to keep the credit card, just cancel it. Who cares?
Right.
And everybody was getting credit card. I got 50 credit cards in a month. And the district manager came down to the store. He was like, what the hell is this woman doing? Like, how is she getting? We have 50 total across like the whole district, and she's getting 50 by herself, working like 2 shifts a week. What's happening? And so I had that job. I had this fundraising job and some other job. I can't think of it at the time, but there were 5 jobs that I had. And this job in particular was the worst one, but it paid the most because you could make commission. So I remember being plugged into this headset. We were in this dank basement room that smelled like mold. To your point, the room. I was actually one of the only women at the time. The director who was kind of overseeing the group was a woman. There was another girl that was in my graduating class that was in there, but everybody else was a guy. And we were sitting in the room and they plugged us into these headsets and they said, read this script. And I would read the script and every day I would go in to the point of tears
Mhm.
because people would just say the meanest thing. I'm like, look, I'm a young student and I'm just trying to make $1. Like, please cut me some slack. And then one day, after a few months of doing this and hating the job, and honestly, probably being on the verge of quitting, but really still desperate for the money, I was like, I got to find a way to turn this around. And the supervisor left me alone in this group, and she was like, "Okay, Justine, look around. You're the most responsible of all the people in this room, so I'm just going to leave it to you to keep things under control, and I'll be back in an hour. I got to go to a meeting." I'm like, okay. And I loved this woman. So I was like, I want to do a good job for her. Right. And so she left. And my immediate thought was, I don't think I want to use this script. Like, she's not listening to me. So I could just try something and let me just see what happens. So I got on the phone and I don't remember his name. I wish I did, but he was this older gentleman. He had graduated in like the class of 69 or something. And we were talking and I was just like, yeah, my major is marketing. And he's like, I majored in marketing. I'm like, awesome. Like, what'd you do for a career? And I was talking to him and getting advice and we were chatting. And then at the end of the call, I said, so you probably know why I'm calling is to ask for a donation to the school to help students like me. And, I'd really appreciate it. He had never given to the school ever. And I was like, I'd really appreciate it if you would donate $25 today. Do you think that's something you could do? And immediately he said, no. And I was like, heartbroken, like, oh, I thought we were getting on so well. Like, this was so great. This was going to be like my shining moment. And then he paused for a second and I paused for a second and he goes, I'm going to give you 50. And I was like, oh my God, I'm amazing at sales. Like, it was just this instant shift where I just went from like deflated and devastated thinking I suck at life to being like, oh my God, I'm going to be a millionaire. My whole life has changed. Like it was this wild shift. And after that, I just kept doing the same thing, having genuine conversations, caring about people. One guy even asked me out on a date and I went with him, even though he was like in his 30s and I was 20, which was a really weird date, by the way. Don't recommend booking dates off of cold fundraising calls. But anyway, I went through this whole series. And then my boss, the supervisor who I loved, she was like, you're the highest performing person in the office. And like, clearly, I've been listening to your calls. I know you're not using the script that I gave you. Like, do you think you could teach other students to do what you're doing? And I was like, yeah, it's so easy. And so then I started teaching the other kids. None of them were as good. Like the skill that you needed to have to be able to teach other people how to be an inherently good salesperson was not a skill that I had. So I was like, why are you doing it this way? Like, why wouldn't you just ask it this way? And they're like, I don't know. I don't think like that. And so for the longest time, it was like navigating between I know how to do something, but I don't know how to teach this thing.
Mhm.
And now my whole job is teaching people sales, and I've gotten really good at it, but because I sucked at it for a long time, which I think is how we learn, right? We got to fail up. We got to embrace the suck. We have to do the thing that's hard. And if you're interested enough in it, you'll be willing to endure it long enough to actually get good.
Yeah, it's
So,
kind of like the guy digging for gold, right? He gets so far, and then all of a
yes,
sudden, because it's so hard, or the perception is it's so hard, it's like, oh, screw it, I'm not doing this anymore. And you're this close, right? And I think
it's like one
about
chip away.
that story, right? Because so many people, and I've had moments like it too. I mean, I also know that I'm one that will sometimes to a fault where I've probably gotten signs to let it go, that I keep kind of like hammering at the thing. There's that side of it too. But I think for a lot of people, they give up in that
Mm.
process. And so, what I'd love to explore with you a little bit is when we're talking about sales, and I already know there's people listening that have just been cringing, and they're like, "No, that's easy for you. That's great. You can do that. It's just it's not my thing." And I think
Yeah.
maybe there's an opportunity to redefine or reshape how we think or what we think sales actually is, because I don't think it's necessarily, I think your story alluded to it so much. I think there's a deeper aspect of selling. And I have a personal opinion on that, but I'm gonna save that till I hear from you. How do you create the context for what sales actually is and what it's not?
Well, I'm going to kind of answer that in a roundabout way because here's what I think happens a lot of the time. We are conditioned to and trained and made to believe that sales is about convincing people to want what we sell. Because you see it in commercials, like we're taught from major advertisers, right? And not to shout out any companies or give anybody a bad name, but there you've seen the commercials where it's like, oh, you want this burger. You're wanting this. Like if you could smell it, you would want it. And they're trying to sell you on the fact that you would want this burger versus just like looking for a place to get that burger you've been dreaming about all week. Come in tonight. We're right off the road. Like a really easy way to connect with people who already want what you sell. And so we see these examples, these big behemoths kind of marketing and selling in this way. And we think, we've got to give free tips. We've got to talk about why you need a sales coach versus talking to the people who, like, I talk to my audience and say, listen, I know how hard you're working. You're booking sales calls, you're networking, you're hustling, you're grinding, you're getting out there, and you've created something you really believe in. So, what's happening? Why are you blocked? Why does it feel so hard? Let's talk about it. Let's uncover it. Let's get to the root of it. Let's figure it out. Your job is to advocate for them getting what they need, to fight for them, not fight for the sale. And I think what often happens with sales and how people think about it is backwards. Like the things that we're being taught about it and the beliefs that we have about it all also stem from people doing marketing who don't actually care about the thing that they're marketing or selling. And as business owners, we made it it's our baby. It's our thing. It's what we're so proud of and really love. If you're trying to sell something that you're kind of like, oh, I just need to collect a paycheck and get my, Comcast bill paid off or whatever, you're going to approach it very differently than I love doing this thing day in and day out. There's nothing else I would rather do. I know people need it. I know people want it. I just have to connect to them. That's a very different approach. And so when I find people who are like, sales sucks and it's hard and I hate it and I don't want to do it, I'm like, does your offer suck? Is it hard? Do you hate it? Because basically, when you choose to be an entrepreneur, you're electing to be in the sales business. And that's not a knock at people who are not good at selling yet. It's just saying, you've got to find a way or your business won't succeed. Even though, like, my podcast is called People Over Profit, it is about the human experience first and foremost. I truly believe that, but profit comes next, right? We have to make money. That's the currency that we have chosen as a culture to use to explain what value looks like to people. And so when you have something valuable, you want to make more money, and money is the show of how valuable people believe your offer to be and how valuable, frankly, you think it is, right? Because the more you're willing to go out and make the money, the more belief is going to fuel you. And I think that for a lot of people, where they miss the mark is seeing money as some bad, greedy, negative concept versus just an illustration of value in one specific type of way. There's actually, we appoint emotion to however we feel about money. Money just is.
Mm-hmm.
It just exists. It's just a thing. It's a piece of paper. And so, and frankly, most of the time, it's not even that. It's just like some virtual concept, right? And so we have a lot of things going on behind the scenes in our brain that's telling us like money is bad. But one of my favorite books is You're a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. And she has this quote in the book that is, more money in the hands of good people does more good in the world. And that reframed my negativity around money in such a powerful way, because now I show up believing I need to make all the money because I am a good person who's going to do good things with it. And not saying that other people don't do great things with money, but why not be in control of the goodness that I'm responsible for? And so that's how I like to think about
Well,
it.
and I love that because I refer to, and so I want to kind of connect this a little bit because I really love what you're saying in this capacity. One, I think money is both a reflector and an amplifier. It creates space. Again, if you're a horrible person, you're going to do more horrible things. If you're a good person, it amplifies. And we have a currency that we live in this culture that is money is the way to make more things happen. And when I think about, especially in the hands of women entrepreneurs, when we look at changing the power dynamics and we look at changing the economic, balance, I guess, that's going on. The only way that happens is to put more money in the hands of people that are good stewards of money, that want to be building, creating. And I mean, it takes money to build cities and schools and, food banks and refugees and all of the things, right? And so I've always looked at it. And I remember I was on stage once, and it was one of those times where it just channeled. And I was on stage, and I can remember somebody asked me about selling, and I leaned in, and it was one of those ones where we were sitting on a panel, and I just kind of leaned in and got really still. And I said, for me, sales is a love letter. It is a love letter that is, especially as an entrepreneur, it is the thing that wakes me up in the middle of the night, that I get downloads and visions and channels of how I can help people. And the reason I feel like it's such a love letter when you're connected to it is I've had so many people, when I've asked the question, that their immediate response was, oh my God, Candy, I prayed about that last night. Like, you literally are answering a prayer because I didn't know how I was going to do this. And it was the thing I needed to do. And I feel like it was such an easy yes, because I've also had people say, I don't ever feel like you're selling. I feel like you're sharing and you're inviting. And I said, because it's a love letter. I am very clear when I get in front of people. I start my 3-day events. I start talks where I'm like, I'm going to offer you something. Because here's the thing, if I'm going to spend whatever time it is with you in this capacity, it's irresponsible of me not to give you a logical next step if this is resonating for you and you're already connecting to a need. You're going to decide if it's for you or not, but I need to at least share with you what that is so that there's a bridge for you to go, oh my God, this was like, and what the fuck am I supposed to do with it from here? Because that's awesome. And I love that we built it in this container. And most people don't know how to get from here to here. So I love that you say that. Again, that's just my personal bias on that, but I feel like for me, it changed everything when I recognized that sales is not only a reflector, it's an amplifier, and it is my way. I think business is spiritual anyway. It's my way of activating my gifts and putting them in service for those who need them.
Yeah, I mean, I operate by a good, better, best framework across everything in my life, pretty much. And I think good is just like, suck it up and do it.
Yeah.
You created something that you believe in enough that you just got to get out there and sell it. Even if you don't feel great about it, you just got to find a way. Like, pull up your bootstraps, be a human, get out there, do the thing. Better is what I think you just illustrated, which is feel so good and confident and natural and at ease with it that you're fine just being like, I'm going to make you an offer and I'm just going to give this to you as an option. It's in your, ability to decide either way what you want to do. And you're like giving them the choice and trusting that the right people are going to make the right choice. You're showing up in a way that feels good to you. You're able to frame it in a way that feels good to you. All of that's super important. I think the best version that a lot of people never really get to, but I hope and love to see people aspire to get to, which is where I'm at with sales. And I've been doing it for 20 years. So like take this with a grain of salt because not everybody gets to this. But it's just literally operating with the assumption people want it and not even having to frame it.
Yeah.
You just go in like, of course is my mantra. Of course they're going to want this. Like, I don't even have to frame it. I don't have to say anything about it. It's just like, I get up and I talk about the thing and of course they're going to want it. And so I often illustrate this to people by saying, imagine you created the cure for cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how many people are sick right now in the world with cancer. So many. And you're meeting them. You're putting yourself in rooms and spaces full of cancer patients every day. I know this sounds extreme, but that's what it feels like, right? And you have the cure for cancer. Are you going to be an asshole and hold that back from every person in the room or feel like you need to frame it like, listen, you get to decide if you want to live or die, but I've got this cure? No, you're going to be like, what the hell? Like, I am here. I've got the cure. You get it. You're like Oprah. You get a cure for cancer. You get a cure for cancer. You're like doling this crap out like you're living on the street corner, just like selling weed to a bunch of people. That's how you need to operate from, is like, of course everybody wants to live. Of course everybody wants the cure. Like, that's just how you do it.
I love that so much. I've been reading, I've been reading a lot again this year. I always read, but I'm reading a book from Mark Nepo called 7,000 Ways to Listen. And one of the things that he really dials into is this ability to have certainty. And so I think about it because what you're saying, it alludes to, and I really want to play with these 3 C's that have been showing up lately. And you're right. There is a jump that just says, of course. And I look at it as certainty, confidence, and clarity. And so when you think about that next level, because I think a lot of people that probably here are a dance oftentimes between that good and better, myself included. I tend to hang out in the better, and I have been doing my own work to get in the best. It's like, yes, of course. Like, this is a no freaking brainer. Even the conversations I'm having with chat and AI, when I'm like, look, I need this to be a must have, not decision. How are we positioning this? Like, I want all the things, because it's go time. It's go time. This is the thing. I'm tired of hearing people bitch and moan and complain about the thing when there is a solution and it's right here. And so you can feel that fire. I'm curious for you. How do you help people move through that process when sometimes good is like the scary space where they're really struggling with their confidence or clarity or certainty or however you might frame that?
Well, first of all, there's a process of osmosis that happens with all of my clients. And that's why my signature program is 6 months long, because by the end of 6 months, they're like, and I say this from a place not of ego, but just matter of factness. Like, I am the figurehead for authentic selling for my community and my clients. So when they come in, they're like, I don't love sales. I feel weird about it. This part feels uncomfortable, whatever. By the end of 6 months, they're WWJD. What would Justine do? What would Justine say? They're like, I thought about how you would just say, what the hell are you doing? Do this instead. And then I just did that instead. And then I just made a sale today. And I'm like, great, you've completed the program. Like, it's not an official part of what I do, but I tell people all the time, like, just being in the energy, just being surrounded by how I sell, my style, all of those things, you just learn it through osmosis in that way. But another thing that's really important is a lot of people don't have a why.
Mm.
And so a lot of my ideal clients are not driven by the dollars, myself included. Like, I have more than enough money. In fact, like, sometimes I don't even know what to do with the money in my savings account. And that's why I have financial advisors, because I'm like, I don't know. I don't go on luxurious
Right.
trips to Bali for 7 weeks at a time. I don't buy, designer shoes or like anything really. I live a pretty average lifestyle. Like, it's not anything extravagant. So the money that I make just kind of sits,
Mhm.
right? A lot of the time. And then I have to decide how I want to invest it and use it. And so I'm not driven by dollars because I don't need to make any more money. So I'm driven by purpose, but a lot of people don't know their purpose, right? They don't have a driver, they don't have a why. And so they're like, yeah, it would be great to write some more copy for someone's website, but how motivating is that, right? Like, you write enough copy and then you're like, I think I'm okay. Versus like having a true mission statement, one that you really believe in. Like, for me, I am passionate about this idea that there are hidden gems all over the place. Like, there are people who are self-proclaimed hidden gems. They're like happy to be the best kept secret. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? You need to be out in the world. People need what you have. They need to know it. They need to experience it. They need to embrace it, embody it, use it, like, do everything with it to their benefit. You're sitting like you are the goose that lays the golden eggs and just like keeps them in the shed. What are you doing? You need to be out there. And so the thought that people have these incredible offers, they have these skills that they spend 20 years like me developing, perfecting, and creating frameworks around, and they're not getting it to the people who are literally sitting on their living room couch in tears going, damn, I wish I could just figure out what it is that would help me get to X, Y, or Z level. And I'm like, I need to just connect with more of those people. Same with you, same with everybody else who's listening and like fired up about the thing they do. So the way that I teach this, it all starts, I have 3 core frameworks in my program. And the first one is all about messaging and how to attract ready buyers. Because the thing is, when we're speaking to just like general hordes of humans and we're just showing up in the world, like, here's what I do, you don't get a lot of validation
Yeah.
because the majority of those people are like bypassing it, swiping left, whatever the hot thing is these days. So it's, you want them to be like, oh my God, just like you were just saying, I needed to hear this today. This is the thing. I need to be a part of it, like that energy. And so when you write content or you speak it or you record it or you do whatever you're doing to market your business, marketing does 90% of the heavy lifting on the sales side. So you want it to be in front of the right people, speaking to the right people, so that when you're putting stuff out into the world, it's not falling on deaf ears or going to your 3 followers on Instagram who actually see your content. Thank you, algorithm. It's going to literally groups of people, like 30, 40 people. Like today on my LinkedIn, I posted a newsletter, 30 people are commenting like, oh my God, I needed to hear this today. This is gold. I love this, blah, blah, blah. Those are my people. And so every time I see more comments come in and people reaching out, like they're commenting, they're filling out my application, they're joining my program. It's taking minutes, not months, right? That's the type of stuff that I think a lot of people are missing. They're just putting stuff out, again, good, better, best, putting stuff out into the ether. Beautiful. Love that for you. Super proud of you for like pulling up your bootstraps, getting out there, making yourself known. Second step is writing for the people who are your best buyers. And the best version is writing for the people who are your best buyers and making sure they see it. And I think people often miss steps 2 and 3 just in that framework, which is why they're like, what's going on? Tap, tap. Anybody listening?
Well, yeah, and I mean, let's talk about that for a minute because I mean, in all honesty, and this is what I see, and I'm not even I mean, I talk about it from a leadership perspective, but it's amazing to me how many people one are just firing like it's like they've got a hose and they're open the sprayer and they're just going or
The
they're
spray and pray
they
method.
show up one day and they're just spraying all over the place, and then other days they're nowhere to be found, right? So there's the consistency thing, there's the messaging thing, there's the I'm just talking to anyone. It's like I'm just sending out the message into the cosmic void and hoping that somehow, some way it's going to land. And I remember telling people this even years ago when people were struggling with, I can't get on Facebook video. And I think about how live has changed and how we do videos and different things. And people were like, I don't know. And I actually had a client once that showed up and she's like, oh my God, I'm so afraid of Facebook Live and whatever. And I said, well, that being said, opened up a Facebook Live. I said, great, we're going to go live and you're going to get over this stupid fear and we're going to do this. And because she was all upset because somebody had the hated comment that came through. And I'm like, we're going to talk about why we love haters today. Because do you know that those people that commented on your post just opened up a whole network of other people that are now going to see your stuff? I've had so many people that have converted because someone didn't like what I had to say and had to get all pissy about it. And someone's like, I've been watching this person light up your stuff. And I was kind of like, who's this Candy Barone? And I went out and checked you out. And I'm like, you might be my person. So thank you, hater, right? Like I'll take press. I'll take the room. Give me, especially with the algorithms, open up new spaces where I'm not in. Because again, when you get dialed in, I tell people you got to be that lighthouse, right? Because in Facebook alone, and I know the numbers have changed. At one point, it was like there's 2 billion people on Facebook, and it's like the Charlie Brown teacher going womp 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 womp. I'm a coach. Like you got to have a point of view. You've got to speak to one person. It's like you're throwing that rock in a lake and where's the spot you want the rock to? Yes, there's going to be the concentric circles that more is going to come in, but where exactly in the lake do you want the rock to land? And I just feel like people are out there either messaging, which is very diluted and like all over the place, or they're like, but I'm for everyone. And I'm just going to share a message that's like for all into the cosmic void and like hope and pray that rock lands somewhere.
We have to choose our hard,
Yeah.
right? Like everything's hard. So you just have to choose your hard. You can either do the spray and pray, post and ghost methods of showing up and being like, who's going to reach out today? And you know what? Those people actually do get inquiries. They do make sales because it is a volume game. They're just playing by the numbers. Like if I pay enough to Facebook to run ads for me, eventually someone's going to click on that shit. Like that's just how it works. Like, but then, and that's hard because you're not getting validation. It's taking forever. The people who come in aren't super qualified or it takes a really long time. Like that's one version of hard. Another version of hard is buckling down and learning how the hell to speak about what you do in a way that lands with your best people. Like it's a skill you have to develop. It's something you have to invest in. So you're investing money, you're investing time, you're investing something. Yep. Right? You have to risk something. You either risk your pride externally or internally. There's so many things at play there. And I think that, just even the example you just gave, I can see how certain people would be really overwhelmed with the idea like, well, how do I know? Like now that I'm playing in this big pond and I have to know exactly where to throw this rock, like it just feels so overwhelming and hard. Or getting on Facebook and doing a live just feels really uncomfortable for me. It's not my style. This is why. Like, first of all, anybody who's listening to this probably resonates more with what you're saying because they love you, like we all do, where we're like, I love your energy. I love how like fierce you are and fiery you are, and you show up like totally you and dynamic and all of these things. But not everybody's like that.
100%.
Right. And so we have to find the method that works for us. This is why it's about tailored solutions, because you're not necessarily always going to be the Facebook Live marketer. You might be the blogger. You might be the podcaster. You might not want to have your face on your brand. You might really want to have your face on your brand. You have to decide, though, like more important than the what is all the decisions leading up to that what. It's why am I showing up? How do I want to show up? Who am I being when I show up? Where are the places that I'm comfortable showing up? Like these micro decisions make those other choices really simple when you boil it down, right? And sometimes yeah, you got to be willing to try some new stuff. Like you're not necessarily going to love things the first time you do them. I remember getting on Clubhouse years ago
Yeah.
and it was all the rage. And I was like, I kind of love the idea of showing up on an audio platform because I don't like being on video. And the first time I was in a Clubhouse room, there were literally 3 people in that room. It was not like a packed house, right? It was all audio. And I remember showing up and for 25 minutes, because I looked at the clock, it was such a memorable moment for me. I was thinking, like, this is going to be easy as hell. I'm just going to talk about stuff and people are going to love me. And I went on Clubhouse for 25 minutes. My body was uncontrollably shaking.
Mm-hmm.
After the call was over, like that's how jarring it was for me to show up in a space of brand new people on a platform I had never been on as a sales expert of over a decade at that point, getting on Clubhouse and being like, yeah, this is hard. And then, 3 months into that, I was in the Millionaires Podcasters room as a featured expert and speaking my truth, and everybody was listening, and people were buying my $3,000 course at the time, like overnight, quick, easy sales. I was making partnerships with people. Everything was rocking and rolling, and my business was like exploding because of Clubhouse. And now I have my podcast, which is a top 5%, all because I took that step. But that could have gone very differently.
Mm-hmm.
I could have showed up on Clubhouse and hated it, not wanted to persevere or push through the fear or the shakiness or suck up my pride and be like, you know what, Justine, you just sucked. Like people could tell you were uncomfortable. It didn't go well. It didn't really make an impression. None of those people ever interacted with me again. Nobody bought from me. It wasn't like this revolutionary moment in my life, but it kind of was behind the scenes because I recognized like, wow, this is harder than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
But I also really kind of love it. And so I'm willing to stick with it and see what happens. And then it blew up. So when you do something and it feels hard, you have to then, in that moment, in that split decision, trusting your human design, your intuition, really like tapping into center and being like, was that hard and
Yep.
I still want to do it? Or was that hard and I've decided I hate it and never want to do it again? And there's no wrong answer, but you've got to just like lean in to whatever you're called to do. And eventually you will unlock your formula for success. And it doesn't look like everybody else's.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful because yes, I think we've all had those moments where we know we've tried something. For me, it was hot yoga. 45 minutes in, I'm like, I will never do this freaking thing again. 90 minutes when it was done, I'm like, I am very clear. I am never doing this again. This is not my jam. And there's that question of, is it a fear? Is it just hard? Is it the unknown? Because I think about, and I used to do a lot of Brendan Burchard stuff. I was in his mastermind many, many years ago. And one of the things I love that he used to say was, I love that you're saying choose your heart because everything's hard. But he would say that the biggest fear we have is not failing, it's being seen as a beginner. And I think that there's something to be said because, especially in light of technology, AI, and how fast things are moving, you are not going to be an expert of every platform and every technology in every way. How can you find the lane that resonates with who you are, how you're wired, what appeals to you, and push through the fact that you're still going to have to be a beginner and figure it out and lean in. And even there's things that I have been doing for 30 plus years, even in the realm of leadership, how I show up. And I have people that are shocked to even hear. I've been speaking on stages for 30 plus years, plus my entire corporate career. And before that, and I still want to throw up. I want to throw up before we get on this podcast together. Like there's still things in me that go, shit, I'm aligned too in my human design. Personally, I'd like to hermit and not talk to anybody for the rest of my life sometimes. And that's not an option. And so it's uncomfortable, even with having a big personality and even with having the kind of fire that there are times when I'm like, my biggest, and I've got a lot of definition in my throat talking about human design again, but I joke because I have a friend of mine, he always wants to be seen. And I'm like, I just want to be invisible. Like my biggest dream in the world is to be invisible. It's not going to happen. I got a fucking vibe that walks in the room before I do. And I still struggle with that imposter phenomenon and with, holy crap, what if I mess this up? I got invited back to go to Northwestern Mutual, my old alma mater, where my last corporate job, and they brought me in a fast track academy, which is like the end all to be a trainer, to be on faculty. Woo, you want to talk about going through the uncomfortable and the hard. And to your point, it mattered. To your point, it was so, I have to do this. Like, this is the thing that, holy cow, I have this opportunity to do this. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna put the time in. And it was one of the best training workshops I've ever done, to which they are bringing me back 3 times this year instead of twice. And so it's
Awesome.
how do you, and so I think about somebody listening right now, regardless of where they're at in your good, better, best, or even if they're even in the good yet, how does someone start to step into a space to embrace the possibility and potentiality that sales offers them?
You know what? Well, there's 2 parts to this. One is alluding to what you just said, which is you said to yourself, I don't want to do this, or this is hard. And also, this is important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to figure it out. As Marie Forleo says, everything is figure outable, right? And so we need to lean into that intuition and knowing of what's the thing that you're willing to figure out. If you consistently find yourself bashing your head against the wall, like, this is hard, I don't want to do this, I don't want to show, there's something in you there's something about your business, there's something about your offer, there's something about what you're doing that you're not aligned with, that you're not loving, that you're not in full belief of, which makes it really freaking hard to show up. Like, it's already hard. Don't compound the hard by making it even harder. Like, there's so much that you can question about that and get curious about and dig into. Like, why am I not showing up? Why do I not want to figure it out? What is holding me back? Like, so many people kind of fall out of love with their businesses or their offers for whatever reason. And it's just going through the motions at that point of like, well, I've always sold this, or I've always done it this way, or whatever. And those are the times where that's not an excuse for you being bad at sales. Like, you have to question and dig in and be curious and figure out what is the thing behind the thing and be willing to step into it. And then also, I was doom scrolling on Instagram this morning, like I sometimes do, and I'm, leaning into my guilty pleasures. And this woman posted a video and she said, that thing that you're doing you're trying to avoid something. And so instead of just like leaning in and doing the thing, you avoid and avoid and avoid. And the fear that you're trying to avoid is actually the reason that you are getting more and more fearful and more avoidant. And so instead of it taking you 2 seconds to share your post on Instagram, you took 2 years before you told anybody about your business, or maybe you still haven't. And it was this realization, like, these are the stages that every human goes through. You're not immune. I'm not immune. Nobody's immune. we go through these phases of just like being paralyzed by things. As I think it's a Rumi quote where it's like 99% of the things you fear never actually come to fruition. You sit in the fear of the unknown versus just doing it. And so what I tell people is you just have to decide. Like that is it. You just have to decide. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be good. You just have to choose. Like, I've got something that I think is worth sharing. So I'm going to share it. And you're not going to probably be good at it at first. You're probably going to suck at it. Like I sucked at it, even in my own business, being the top earning salesperson in multiple jobs before I had my own business. When I got into my consulting, I started off as a consultant in 2014. And the first 3 months of my business, I made no money.
Mhm.
It was like I worked for free. I hustled. I worked 80 hours a week. I gave proposals to people. I didn't get paid for invoices that I had sent out. Like I was not receiving money, and I was pouring out what I believed to be value. And then I took a step back and I was like, I'm not valuing myself, which is why no one else is valuing me. And the things that I'm doing, I'm not doing them in a way that actually aligns with how I want to be doing it. I'm doing it in the way that I think it needs to be done, or someone else is doing it. And it was like through the suckiness of making no money, I learned what I definitely didn't want, which made what I wanted clearer, but it still wasn't perfect. And then I still had to stumble and what I call fail up in my business. I failed up, kind of moved up the ladder, just like relationships. We start off with a relationship. Most of us have been with more than one person in our life as a romantic partner. And we go through that first relationship and it's like, ooh, don't like that about that person. And so then you make a note of it. And it's just like, don't want to date someone with that quality again. And those become your filters. And as you go through life, you learn what's acceptable, what's negotiable, what's not negotiable, what you're willing to compromise on, what you're not, like what your boundaries are. And you also learn how you like to show up in the world and engage with other people. And the same is true for your business. Like, is my husband perfect? No. Am I perfect? Definitely no. But are we a great pair? Yes, because the things that we value align, the way we communicate aligns. And at the end of the day, we're willing to overlook the little nitpicky things about each other that anybody else probably would have checked off the list as a no-go, like him leaving cups next to the dishwasher instead of just putting them in the dishwasher. But I'm like, who cares? Who cares about that? He does that, but he also shows up fiercely for our children and is the most loving and supportive partner I've ever met in my life. So I'm willing to overlook that. For someone else, that would have been a no, that would have given them the ick and they would have moved on. And so same thing with sales. You might do a live and be like, that sucked, but I'm willing to keep going. Or you might do a live and be like, that sucked and I definitely am never going to do it again. And also, that's okay. But the point is, until you do it, you can read every book, you can listen to every podcast, you can watch every other business owner sell. But until you do it yourself, you don't know how it feels. You don't know what it creates for you. You have no idea until you do it. It's like riding a bike. You're never going to be able to know, am I going to ride this thing or am I going to fall off? And how long is it going to take me before I'm cruising down the road with no training wheels until you actually get on the friggin' bike? So you just have to decide. And it takes literally a split second to make a decision. It's all the overwhelm and the mind drama leading up to it that's causing paralysis. So what I recommend is just ask a friend or someone that you trust to hold you accountable to doing the thing and maybe even help you do the thing so that you don't have to do it alone, because we are social creatures. You don't need a business coach. You don't need a sales coach. You don't need a human design coach. It's great to have us in your corner. It's great to experience and learn through osmosis, like I said earlier, but all you need is one other person believing in you, having mindfulness and awareness to what you want to do and holding you accountable, because we're not all internally as motivated as we would like to be. Sometimes we need the external driver to push us over that line to be like, okay, I did that thing. And then from there, we can continue to kind of grow and figure out the way. But if you're stuck and you're paralyzed, just ask one person for support or help to just get you over the hump. And more than likely, that's going to be enough momentum that you'll be able to find something that resonates with you.
Yeah, and I love the term fail up that you used. I think for most people, we have two kinds of fears, and I talk about this in human design, even in the spleen. There's survival fears, flight, flight, freeze. Like there's a bear, you better have some fear because you got to do something to get out of harm's way. And then there are existential fears: fear of failure, fear of success, fear of the future, fear of patterns repeating themselves, fear of not being prepared, whatever it is. We have these fears that mimic and we believe are survival fears when actually they're catalysts for us to do what you just said, make that decision. Because whenever something feels uncomfortable, whenever there's that perceived risk, it's because you're on growth's edge, right? We don't grow
Yeah.
from hitting the success targets all the time. That's not growth. That's complacency, and that's playing small. Growth only occurs when we're willing to push ourselves. And it's that moment, because there is scientific proof that shows in 7 seconds, it takes 7 seconds for you to distinguish that, whoop, something just showed up. Am I going to step in, call it fear, or am I going to call it excitement? And the thing is it's the exact same trigger in your nervous system. You get a moment to decide which lane you're going to take it down. And when you take it down that lane of, ooh, I'm excited, then to your point, it's that ability to fail up, be curious, stay in the experiment. And when it doesn't work, you're like, okay, next. Instead of the way we internalize it and get caught up, because oftentimes that fear that of stepping into that next thing, the reason why it becomes so hard and it takes 2 years to do the thing is because you start telling a story that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. How many times have you been afraid to have that conversation that you've heard many people, as soon as they had it, they're like, oh my God, that was easier than I thought it was going to be. Oh my God, really? You could have saved, we all could, we do it all the time, right? Could have saved all that, my nervous system going inside out and the stress and the worry and the anxiety. If I would have just done the damn thing, it wasn't a big deal. But because I had all this time with it, I made it be a big deal because then the fear took over.
And you know what's so funny? I just had like a really strong thought and belief that I've never had before, which is around the idea of growth. Not everybody wants to grow. That's not always a motivator. And so a lot of the time we're like, we have to challenge ourselves, push ourselves to grow, do all the things to like lean in and, you know, face the hard moments and have this massive growth. But the truth is, we don't always feel motivated by growth and we don't always want to grow. And a lot of the time, just showing up isn't actually contributing to growth at all. We're just doing the thing and we're kind of maintaining the status quo by showing up and doing hard things. Like we're not even fully experiencing or benefiting from the growth that comes with that. So I think, you know, in another point is you've got to tap into the words, the experiences, the things that are motivating to you, that excite you, that make you want to show up in that way. So if you're not motivated by growth, I hear people like in my brain right now listening to this and going like, well, I don't know. I don't feel like I've grown a lot, or I don't really want to grow any more than I have, or I feel okay where I'm at. Don't use that as an excuse not to show up and do the thing that you are called to do. There's a reason you're listening to this podcast. There's a reason that you are creating the business that you have. There's a reason that you were put on this earth at this time, on this day, at that place, like that you are here in the way that you are. You're a miracle. You're a 1 in 400 trillion chance that you are the you today here in this moment. So don't squander that by making excuses for some stupid thing. Like lean in and be like, why am I here? What am I doing? What do I want? What's motivating for me? And if it's not the business, if it's not the offer, what is it? Like figure out the thing or figure out what about that thing is not triggering that desire within you, is not triggering you to want to do or take that next step, and figure that out first. We're not always 10 steps ahead. Sometimes we're 10 steps behind, and our job is literally to just play catch up before the growth even happens. And we all go through those phases. So, I talk to a lot of people who get really particular about words and really particular about, the stories that they state, like the news that are going on in their head about all the fears and things. And that's not to invalidate those stories. Those stories are valid. They're happening for you. Those are thoughts and beliefs that you have, and you want to honor those. And at the same time, you're still at choice. And that's part of my job as a coach, is to help people tap into whatever freedom looks like for them. For some people, freedom is money. For other people, freedom is more time. For other people, freedom is just being able to choose versus being kind of ball and chained to some idea of what should be. And so, whatever it is for you, just like check yourself regularly, not just after listening to this podcast episode, but like all the time. Make it a practice. Make it a practice so that it can become a habit where you're checking in with yourself and going, what's feeling good to me? What do I want to lean more into? There is something. And the more curious you become, the more obvious that choice becomes. And the more you do it, the more obvious it is, the more you're going to do it. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. The better you get at it, the better results you're going to create for yourself. And so that's the pathway that you want to kind of follow and walk down, not the other one where it's full of uncertainty and fear and a lack of desire and motivation and excuses and all the things that are playing, this version of you that's kind of playing small and playing against you, versus the one that's like wide open and free. And it just happens to kind of move in a way that you can't always see what's past the horizon, but you feel that hopefulness. That's the side you want to lean towards, not the one that's like dank and dark and scary. And like you look at it and you go, oh, hell no, I'm not going down that path. Like you don't want to go down that one. You want to lean into the one that's like bright and hopeful and feels good to you, and just trust that that drop off, or what looks like a drop off, is actually just a shift of direction or something new, or there's clouds there that are just kind of obstructing the view because you're not yet ready for it. It's a little bit further away, and that's okay. That doesn't make it unsafe.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh, so much goodness in all of that. And I think about it all comes down to choice, right? I think there is a space in what you said as well, that people really think about, what does freedom, what does success, what do those things mean to them, and how do they define it? Because that does look different for everybody. Some people it's financial freedom, some people it's time freedom, some people it's health freedom, some people it's just freedom to like pivot and do all the things, right? And so that ability to remember that we have a power of choice no matter what's going on. And it makes me think about, and I think I bring this into almost every podcast these days because it just feels so relevant. We get so concerned about the whole staircase. We get so concerned about all the steps we got to take for the next 5 years. By the way, I hate 5-year plans and 10-year plans. That's just the Manny Jen and me going, oh my God, if you're doing the thing,
oh, they're useless.
On the time frame to get the things done, and the 5 years is going to change anyway. Stop worrying about 5 years and worry about the next 90 days. Worry about the next 6 months. Worry about
5 minutes.
That too, right? Worry about the now, because we're so future projecting. And it's that space. Yeah. Worry about the now. Worry about 5 minutes from now, what's going to matter. Because I think we get so caught up in, oh my God, it's going to be, and it's like the first step. Stop worrying about where the freaking staircase is going and if it's going to wind, if it's going in the cloud. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You need to trust, and you've used that word a few times. You need to trust that this is the right path forward or catch up. And I always say that if you take that right first step, the next step will unfold, and the next step will unfold, and you will eventually find the bridges you need, or the people, or the resources, or the ways to get there. You don't need to know how to go from 0 to 100. You only need to go from 0 to 1. And I think people get so paralyzed because we anticipate all the things versus, to your point, my God, what do you need in the next 5 minutes? Like, what do you need to be focused on now? Like
Yeah.
this moment,
It's the same thing with I need to get 100 clients. And it's like, oh,
how about you get one?
okay. How do you get the next one though? Like, what are you going to do to get that? And it's really interesting when you say trust the path. I would reframe that slightly to trust yourself.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
you don't need to even trust the plan or the strategy or the path. You just need to trust yourself to find
100%.
whatever that next step is, because you are at home within yourself. You are at choice within yourself. You are
Yeah.
at the point of decision at every point. And so I could go and here's what's really interesting, because I gave one of my clients permission the other day to do something. I'm like, all I do all day, guys, is just write permission slips for everybody here. Like, this is all I do. But the truth is, we need those, right?
Mhm.
We need the permission sometimes from other people. We need to feel validated in our choices. And she was like, I want to change the name of this offer, but I've already sold a couple of them. And so now I feel like it kind of is like a bait and switch because the name will be different. And I was like, ask any one of the clients who have purchased this offer what the name of it is, and they're not going to friggin' know. Like, no one cares about the name of your offer. I run a masterclass right now where literally midway through, I already had 15 registrations or something. And I was like, I don't love this name. And I just changed it. And I didn't say a thing about it. I just changed the cover image. I changed the name. Everyone's like so excited for this masterclass, as if they had always been signed up for the name that I changed it to from the name I changed it from, because no one cares. These micro
Yeah.
decisions
Yeah.
are just keeping you feeling stuck, when all you need to do is just go, I trust myself to make the right choices. If I feel called to make that change, I'm just going to make that change. Someone who's literally that acutely aware of every decision that you make is actually probably your best buyer,
Oh,
because they're going to check
100%.
in with you.
100%, which is why I love human design, right? Because we have a
Yeah.
blueprint for how we make those decisions. And I love it because I actually had a moment that I just did that myself, but I actually used it because I felt very called, because people need to see the vulnerability and the realness of what it's like to be an entrepreneur. That I had a message that went out last week. I was in full launch, 5 days in, ready to close it. And I was like, I need to push this off a week. This is not the moment. And I just reopened it again today. And I had more people send me messages back from the email that I said, I just need y'all to know, you can still sign what I'm going to relaunch next week, because everything with the energy right now has me I need to pause. And someone wrote back, she goes, oh my God, I thank you for giving me permission for the power of the pause. The fact that you just said it's okay. I said, look, it's everything was aligned until it wasn't. And the minute it wasn't, I was like, I can't push this. I can't in integrity push this. And I also need to share this because it is in the context of what I do, and how am I teaching and lead. This is leadership. This is being okay with, I need to pivot because this no longer feels aligned. So we're going to do it this way instead. And it's amazing that when people care or pay attention, they actually have a relief, because it innately gives them permission as well to be like, oh,
Yes.
I get to be human. I actually get to be human as an entrepreneur, which sometimes I think that in and of itself is the biggest permission we need to give ourselves.
100%.
Yeah. So how can people find you? Because first of all, we could be staying in this conversation for a long time, and I'd love to have you come back. And I also want to be aware of the fact that we get into some stuff here. Justine, what's
Yeah.
the best way for people to reach out to you and find out more about how they can tap into the brilliance that you have to help them navigate?
Yeah. Well, I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I would love to come back. I adore you and I love your show. And if anyone listening has felt like this really resonated with you and you haven't yet left a review of the show, please take a minute and pay it forward by leaving a review of the show, because that's how more people find it. And if you're resonating with this, there's probably somebody else who hasn't yet stumbled across this beautiful little gem. And like I said, I'm very passionate about making sure that, not that you are a best kept secret, you're certainly not, but the more people can find these nuggets of wisdom and brilliance and things that we pour our hearts and souls into and share really rawly in the way that you so beautifully guide is really important. So rate and review the show. And if you do that, email me and let me know, and I will gift you some one-on-one time for a sales call or something like that to help you. So in addition to that, people can find me, literally Google my name, Justine Beauregard. I am the only one who is teaching sales. I'm the only one who's writing for Entrepreneur. I'm the only one who has a podcast, all of the things. Or go to my website, which is just myname.com. And if you search for me on social media, you'll see the same headshot popping up because it's all about consistency and branding, people. So we got to be showing up in a way that people can easily find us. So they can go anywhere and they can find me.
Well, first of all, thank you. You are one of the most generous spirit, and that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you. And I encourage all of you to go out and listen to the People Over Profits podcast. Like I said, I subscribe to it. I listen to it. It is fucking phenomenal. And I am going to give you every way possible that you can connect with Justine down in the notes below, because the work she's doing, follow her on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on other places. She has nuggets today. You posted something today that just freaking was like, yes, in fact, I copied it. I was like, exercise 1, exercise 2. I'm like, ooh, because she's always offering nuggets to help you fine tune wherever you're at on that pathway. And so just constant value, 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 value. Every day she shows up. Every day she's got fucking golden nuggets. And so just please tap into the work she does. Justine, thank you for being a guest on this show. I love your heart. I love your brilliance. I love your whole badassery. And just, I love how you show up in this world. You are showing
Thank you.
others how to make that powerful choice. So thank you. And so before we fully close this, if you had one last thing you'd like to share with people based on what we talked about today, what might that be?
There must have been a moment during this episode where you thought, ah, shit, I feel called out. I got to do that thing. I got to share that thing. I got to post that thing, or whatever it is. Do us a favor, because we just invested our most precious resource with you today, which is our time, right? More than anything else, that's what matters. We have a limited, finite, fixed amount of time in this lifetime to be here with you. So don't squander it. Whatever that thought was, I want you to do it, enact it, whatever came to mind for you. You already know what it is. Don't fight it. Don't lie to yourself about it. Nobody else is holding you accountable to it. Show up for your damn self and do it. And one of my favorite quotes is, when you feel helpless, help someone. So if it's not something that you feel ready or called to do just quite yet, in lieu of doing the damn thing, which I would strongly encourage you do if you can, but in lieu of that, go help someone do their damn thing. Pay it forward in that way, because you're not meant to sit here and listen to this podcast and do shit with it. You're meant to listen to this and take an action. So make it happen.
I love that. And just to play the game, I'm going to let y'all know I felt called out on this call, and I am taking action on making sure that I am fully in the best and not hanging out in that better, so that I'm showing up with that certainty and clarity, knowing that I have the fucking cure for cancer in the spaces that I am playing. So with that, I want to thank Justine again for joining us. I want to thank all of you for joining us for another episode of the Aligned as Fuck podcast. As Justine so graciously invited you, please subscribe, review, share with us what your big takeaway was. What's the thing you felt called out, if you want that extra accountability? And be sure to tune in on the next episode of the Aligned as Fuck podcast. Thank you. Remember, leadership is always your choice. With that, everybody, will catch you on the next show.